Hey everyone, this is Monica Michelle with Explicitly Sick on the Invisible Not Broken Network. And this podcast is going to be all about just chatting about life with disability and chronic illness. I'll be interviewing authors and artists and business owners and people just with different disabilities. So this is part 2 of my interview with Sarah Ramey. If you have not heard part 1, please head on back and listen if you'd like. Part 1 is where we really talk a lot about her book, which is amazing and fantastic. And please go to our show notes at invisiblenotbroken.com. And at the very top of the Explicitly Sick section, you will see this wonderful post. And at the very top, you will see a place to purchase her book, The Lady's Handbook for Her Mysterious Illness. It's a fantastic book. Please go over there. This week, we are covering the process of writing while you have a chronic illness. And we talk about parenting on my side with chronic illness. We get very into gardening. And we have a whole discussion on silver linings and how people around us and how maybe we ourselves can learn how to talk to someone who has told us some news that we are not necessarily ready to hear or are saddened by or upset by about the other person's life. So basically learning how to just hold space. So I hope you enjoy this episode. We also do go a little bit into Outlander. So if that is your thing, I hope you enjoy. We've had a lot of fun chatting about all of our various literary interests. I'm going to stop talking now. Please enjoy this interview with Sarah Ramey. But I hear you because I feel like there's so many of us who are compassionate but aren't taught the right language. Like I'm still learning the right language. I have a lot of very compassionate listeners who will, most of them call me out kindly on when I screw up and I have left someone out, or I have I've said something that I did not mean. I certainly never mean to be offensive unless I'm talking about people who don't want myself to exist or others to exist based on our birth. Otherwise, I don't mean to be, but I feel like we're all sort of like being pit against each other in some sort of weird purity test on like how perfect can we understand everyone, even those we have not met yet that we're still learning about. And I think that's very like more walls are being thrown up in this purity test than are being taken down.
Yeah, I think that's true. And to your audience, if I'm being horrible and offensive, I super apologize. I am also learning, and I just, it's funny, I'm going from this time of like a very protracted period of isolation and not being around people to like suddenly being like very connected to a lot of people, and I'm like, this is not gonna go well. I had all these thoughts
Sorry.
myself in my room, and it's probably not gonna go so well when it's like out in public. And so I just like, fortified myself for like getting it wrong, because I know that for sure, like because and it's just this is just another thing, is that I personally, whatever I like think and believe, I am not somebody that's like, here's what I think and believe, and it's written in Sharpie and it is true. Like that's not how I think about anything. I feel like everything for me is like written in pencil and it's like always up for revision because what do I know? So
I go with Jane Austen. I have no talent for certainty.
yeah, that's good.
Like,
Yeah.
what is that? Like, beliefs are dangerous, ideas are good.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
That was oh gosh, Kevin Smith's Dogma. Very weird, very good, strange movie. And Carlin as the Pope is probably my favorite casting choice. Alanis Morissette as God was awesome.
Oh, I've seen that. I have seen that. I remember Alanis Morissette as God.
Yeah, if you're sick long enough, you become sort of a pop culture.
Yeah.
I can get all the references on RuPaul's Drag Race. I just want to do a quick energy check with you because I will keep you talking forever. I am lonely and I will talk to you all day. So I just want to make sure that you're still doing okay before I continue on to another topic.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. And also same for you. Like if you need to wrap up, you wrap up whenever you
I will let you know, but this is just way too much fun for me. So I'm sorry. I just tell me to stop kidnapping you. I will not charge a ransom. You're fine. Okay. I am a writer as well, but I write fiction. And I was so curious with brain fog and chronic pain. How did you finish a book?
Well, I literally started it. I mean, the first 12 pages of the book I wrote in 2005. And
Okay, I
so
feel so much better. Thank you.
yeah, so it took so long. So I sold the book. I started writing the book proposal in 2008. I mean, well, let's just say this at the end. So I sold it. I started it 2008. I sold it in 2010. It was due June of 2011. Here we are, short 9 years later. And I couldn't, I mean, I just could not. It's the same with now. It's like everything that I think that I should be able to do, it just takes you 10, 15 times longer. And that is just the fucking reality. And it is so hard to accept that. I feel like I literally have to go through like the stages of acceptance every day with this, of grief over like what I feel like I should be able to do versus what I'm actually able to do. And it's quite limited, especially when it comes to like talking. When I'm well, talking is the easiest thing for me to do. When I'm unwell, I can't do this. But when I'm well, talking is quite easy. And then the next thing is working on the computer, and it's very difficult. Like I have just a really limited period of time. And when I was writing the book, this is different now. So in the meantime, I finally got an ileostomy because I had, so this for your audience, I had my colon stopped working because of the injury I initially sustained. It just completely stopped working, and I had to take just a tremendous amount of laxative to empty the bowel so that the colon wasn't pressing down on my extremely inflamed and damaged pelvic nerves. So that was like the problem I was always dealing with. And it was meant that I was in a bathroom, like running back and forth to the bathroom from like 6 a.m. until like at least 2 p.m. every day for over a decade. And so, but also the morning is like when my brain is the most functional, especially for focusing on like writing. And so the entirety of this book was written with me like waking up and like writing a little bit and then like running to the bathroom and coming back and then writing a little bit and just like over and over and over again. And it was just like so crazy and so difficult, and was like, I would describe it to my mom. I'm like, it's like trying to like do a painting, but like you can just do like the one brushstroke, then you have to like run to the bathroom, throw up, come back, and like just do one more brushstroke, and like it just takes forever, and it's insane. And it's like, but that's how it got done, and it just took me an incredibly long time. Like now, this very unfortunate timing that the book just came out, and a lot of because it just kind of got washed away a little bit by the pandemic. And but everybody they said to me, they're like, "Don't worry, you just write another book." And I'm like, I can't. What? This one took almost 15 years to write. Like, I'm not gonna write another book. Like, I mean, maybe I will, but it won't be
And what are
for a
you,
very
Stephen
long
King? I mean,
time. And so, I mean, some people, yeah, I think are very prolific. I don't know very many chronically ill people who are super prolific. Like, unless it's like about chronic illness and they're blogging or something about that. I know some people, but even I can't do that. It is very difficult for me to focus and to work on something and get it to the level that I want it to be at, just artistically. Like it just takes just an inordinate amount of time, and I don't know, it sucks.
but how did you stay like focused? Like, how were you able to continue a thread while you're doing one brush stroke? I'm doing great, brush stroke at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard. Like it always felt, I, this is, I think, true for writers in general. It's just compounded 100 times over by being sick. Um, I really think that like the stress of writing a book is hard to understand unless you've written a book. It's like, and I think it's because it's more information than you can all hold in your mind at the same time. Like it's not. Go ahead. I mean, I could not. I couldn't.
Parenting with chronic illness.
Yeah, I mean,
um, honestly, so I didn't have a choice. When I got pregnant, I was told I could never have children.
mm,
So when I got pregnant with my son, I was very young, like not Lifetime TV young, but Silicon Valley teenage mother young, like early 20s. So it was like shocking. And it was not, I just graduated from college. It was very surprising. So I didn't really get like that moment to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I had until I was 36.
Oh, wow.
I've been sick since I was 8 and I wasn't diagnosed till I was 36.
Oh,
So I didn't really get to make a lot of choices on all of that. But I also have to say, I don't know how you all do it without kids. I really
yeah.
don't. I have no idea. And not to say go have babies, like please don't take it that way. Like it's it is definitely something that's a something that should be choice and decided and wanted.
Yeah.
But I don't. My kids are they're like my absolute joy, like, and they are
Yeah.
so helpful. Like they my son will make me dinner if I can't get up. My
Mhm.
they do a lot of the household stuff. They'll take me for walks when I can. It's kind of the family joke. And
Mhm.
even when they were really little, like toddlers, like when I get really sick and I couldn't move out of bed, my daughter would call them the darling slug days. So we would watch, like she was like 2 to like 4 years old, and this would happen a lot. And so we would just curl up in bed together. We watched Jane Austen movies, and we would like do arts and crafts in bed, and um,
That
we'd
makes me
read
so
stories.
happy.
Yeah, and my son, I was a single mom, and when he was 2, I had to have massive surgery where I couldn't leave my bed. So
Wow.
I gave him the first like digital camera that existed
Uh-huh.
because I couldn't chase after a toddler and I was all on my own. And
Yeah.
he would just talk the whole time he was photographing. So I'd know exactly what he was doing and what he was
Oh.
into. And then he would come back and show me all the photos. So that's kind of how we got through those first 2 weeks when I couldn't leave the bed with a toddler. So that's parenting with chronic illness is basically
That
hilarious,
is
weird,
nice. Yeah.
wild, and oddly wonderful and amazing, and
Yeah.
it really kind of makes very empathetic kids, like
Yeah.
psychotically empathetic and
I have seen that with a lot
able
of
to do
authors.
things. Like they can do
Mhm.
stuff for themselves. They're pretty
Mhm.
self-directed.
That's good.
It's
That's good.
it's I've been very lucky.
Yeah. Oh,
They're
that's
wonderful
nice.
humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Well,
not to say that they
listen.
don't drive me to the edge of sanity. There are
Yeah.
definitely the like Thelma and Louise, give me a bottle of wild turkey and let's just like point the car towards Mexico. There are those days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But most of the time, 99%, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. Oh, that
And
does sound nice.
that's my little, yeah, parenting chronic illness thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm so stuck on like, I'm sorry, this is a
How do you
very
keep
selfish,
that?
no, this is just such a selfish question on my part because I've been writing a novel forever and
Mhm.
I'm doing something very similar. It's like one brush stroke
Mhm.
and that's it. And I don't know how to continue the thread. Like how do you keep that thread strong?
I'm, like, trying to think of how to, like, give in any way a satisfying answer to this. I feel
Oh, and
like
no
it's
worries if you
like
can't. I mean, Neil Gaiman has the best answer, which is you sit and you write,
yeah, it
and then you do
literally
it again. And it's like that is the most helpful and unhelpful answer ever.
honestly, that is, like, how it was. I literally felt like it would never, ever, 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 ever be done until the moment it was done. And then I was like, "I'm never doing that again."
That sounds
I
like labor. That absolutely sounds like labor.
yeah, 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 exactly, and it just took I mean, for it to be like that for so long, like, I have to say, like, it was very unpleasant. People are like, "Well, you got the dream job." I'm like, "Fuck you." And it does not it does not feel like that. It is so difficult, like, it sorry, I just, like, it doesn't I it might feel differently if I wasn't in horrific pain and my brain worked better and, like, all it didn't have all these other problems. It might feel and I know regular writers really struggle with writing as well, but it's definitely harder, obviously, if you've got all these physical problems as well. So yeah, I don't think of writing in any way as like a glamorous thing. Like I found it very, 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 very hard and was just so relieved when it was over. And yeah, so I don't know. But in terms of practically speaking, the book, I'm sure you noticed, is kind of written in sort of a weird way. Like it's got a lot of really short sections and like the paragraphs are spaced weirdly. Like there's like a lot of spacing. And part of that is because that helped me to just like focus on one thing at a time. Like there would never be, is your kid right there? Oh, hi. um, yeah. So I broke up the style that I ended up writing in, like, just became, like, my, quote, "style of writing," but it's not like an aesthetic choice, it's like a it's it literally is, like, breaks everything up so that I can focus on, like, small chunks easier and, like, make them I think that this is actually the answer to your question, is that, like, by breaking things up and not having super long paragraphs and not having, like, paragraphs that are, like, smushed together, like, there's all spacing between everything, that would allow me to like just work on a little tiny section at a time and feel like it was really done and that it like sort of rhythmically like moved and could be and would work one to the next to the next to the next instead of having to like think about something in like too big a chunk because I just can't focus on that much material at the same time, so I just focused on little pieces and then would string them all together and then
That's fantastic advice. That's
yeah.
very of Scott Fitzgerald, where he would stop in the middle of a sentence. He would never finish his last sentence, so he could pick
Yeah.
it up again. It's funny you said that though, because I really thought that you had made a stylistic choice in your book because it felt very much like The Descent, like
Yeah, I mean,
the
it
way
is
that
it
things are
is also
spaced.
I shouldn't have said it's not an aesthetic choice. It is partially that, like, it just it sort of evolved as, like, this thing that I needed, and then it sort of became a thing that I liked and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this because I like it, and I can use it, yes, to, like, mirror The Descent, and I can use it to to s to, like, make it sound I don't know, like, I want it to sound like I don't know, whatever with writing, but,
No, but
like, I
you did that, like, and also as like all of my other health issues, I have the ADHD of a gnat with a cocaine issue, so
mm,
it was deeply easy for me to read as well. So I think for like your
I
audience who's most likely chronic illness, that's a super easy book to read.
yes, no, but so this is important. My publisher asked me at the very last minute to take the weird spacing stuff out, and they sent me a
No.
bunch of drafts without that, and not drafts, galleys without that, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Excuse I was like, "That's not the book that I wrote." It's and we've been working together for 11 years now. Like, this is not like a surprise that I write this way. Like, you know that I write in this style. We're not doing it this way. And we had a huge argument back and forth about this. And in the end, I was just like, it has to be this other way. Sure, stylistically for me, but I am 100% sure that people like me need it to be in this digestible way
Mhm.
because it makes it much easier to read, which is part of why I wrote it that way. It made it easier to write. And so it has to stay this way. Like, if you don't publish it this way, I'm going to release it in a Word document for people to read that need it in this other way because it just has to be that way. It mirrors the way that our brain works. And that matters to me and to the readers.
Well, if
Anyway.
they care at all what the reader who is chronic illness thinks, I wouldn't have been able
I
to
know
read it a different way.
I'm gonna excerpt this and be like,
You can
"See?"
excerpt this and send it over to them and be like,
I
this is
told ya.
exactly why I was right." But that
Yeah.
also comes to the point of like when the decision makers aren't the people who are experiencing it. We've seen this a lot in movies of like the white savior movies of like,
Mm,
or there's a lot of movies that have been made in the last, even up to the last 3 years that were decision makers of the story weren't the people who experienced it, and
mhm,
the story gets very muddled in the way it gets presented, gets very convoluted, where then you
mhm,
have things like Black Panther come out where it's like,
mhm.
oh, this is a new story, or Orthodox, which I don't know if you've
I haven't
gone
seen
down
it.
that rabbit hole, but oh,
I
it was good.
yeah, I
And they
really
had
wasn't
people
with
in
that.
that community make the decisions, and
Mhm. Yeah,
that's I think it's important that
you
you were
have
able
to
to
do
fight for
that.
that.
You
Yeah,
have to do that. It's, like, so obvious. Yeah, it happened in Coco, I remember too, like, they, like, started making Coco, that Disney movie, and, like, it was
I
just a
love that
bunch of,
movie.
like I know, and but the first version of that movie was just, like, a bunch of white people in Hollywood, like, working on it, and they were like somebody in the team was just like, "This is wrong. This
Mhm.
is terrible," and then they just redid it and had it
I think
all
that's what Book of the Dead became, right? As they had 2 movies that came out at the same time, where it was Book of the Dead, which
oh,
was
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
very it was not
Yeah,
and then there was Coco.
right, and you can just tell it's like of course. and it's obvious, of course, it should be written from the perspective of the people that are like, that's their story. And so
Yeah.
anyway, so in this case, it's the same thing. And I'm very grateful that they in the end they agreed to let it be
I am
written.
too, and I also think that the caregivers who read this, or the people who are just
Mm.
curious what life is like, this is an easier book to read, which, like when
Mhm.
you have the story makers who are supposed to be telling your story their way, it becomes a better story for everyone to read or to
Yeah.
watch or to experience.
Yeah. Well, and that was also one of the other reasons that it took so long is that it's really it's easier to write something that is not easy to read. Like it is easy to write badly and like not edit it. And like one of the things that took me forever was making it as like tight and quick, fast paced as possible. And so like it reads fast, but making for me, making something read fast takes a really, 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 really long time. And it doesn't feel like that. I know that like there are books when I read it, I'm like just like blazing through it. And I have to remind myself that like it was probably difficult for that person to write. It didn't just like all come out in a torrent, but it doesn't feel that way when you're when you're reading it. It's like, but I do think that was like very, very top of mind for me was like this book must not be difficult to read because it is a bunch of people with like broken brains, essentially not broken, but like, uh, and it's a very difficult subject. It is painful and triggering and dense. And so if it's not written in a way that's like really light, it is never ever going to be read. Like it will just sink to the bottom of the ocean. And like so that was really important for me, but I think definitely made it take a lot longer to produce because it for me that does take a long time to make something move quickly.
I love watching the YouTube interviews with authors just to kind of get their process down. And like Erin
Mhm.
Morgenstern was one of my favorite people. She wrote
Mhm.
Night Circus, and then she just wrote Starless Sea. I don't know if you read those, but they're
I
super fun.
own Circus, have not read it. Yeah, and I have
That's
not
fair.
read the Starless Sea.
But she talked about how is it was 8 years between her books,
Mm,
and like Night Circus came out, it was this big deal, and everyone was like, next one, next
mhm.
one, and like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
this
yeah, there's
like
no
we're like we've never been worse at this than right now, but we're always entertainment locusts.
yeah,
Like we go through like something that took someone like 10 years to do, or like years and years of like multiple people to create a TV show. And we're like, it's been 2 months. Where's season
yeah, where's
two?
that?
Like,
No, I know, it's tough. That I've been having a lot of that. They're like, "What's the next thing? What's the next thing?" And I'm like, "Just leave me alone. Just
breathing's the
yeah,
next thing.
leave me alone." Yeah.
Oxygen.
Mhm. Yeah.
You had also talked about gardening, which is like my deep passion in life. One of
Yeah,
them.
yes, gardening. It's just what people said it would be. It's so fun and, like, rewarding and stress relieving, and I have never been a gardener. I planted a little garden once way back, but yeah, this year so I just moved into this new place in Washington, DC that has on the roof it's not a community garden, it's not like big raised beds, but it's like I would say half the building has little like container garden plots up there. And so it's like this Eden of like container garden flowers and vegetables. And it's just so beautiful up there. And so this year, since it's my first summer here, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get really into it. And then it became clear that the pandemic was coming and was not going. And so I went to the hardware store and I like bought so many seeds and like those pellets and all this stuff. And they were like, "Sweetie, you are not going to have time to do all of this." And I was like, "I don't think you're watching the news." I was like, "I think I am." And I was right. And so now I've got this very elaborate garden going. It's mostly just seeds and it's just starting to grow at this point, but it's very fun. I love it.
What's the crop you're looking forward to the most?
So I'm growing, well, I will be growing cucumbers. I have got some rows of lettuce going. I've got cucumber seedlings, which I think I started a little early because I don't know. anything about anything. And then I've got this very extensive flower garden seed. I'm looking at them now. It's like a grow house over there, seedling bed of like zinnias and cosmos and delphinium and lupine and is it lupin or lupine?
I've always gone with Lupin, but I am famous for
Lupin.
mispronouncing. I am so good at mispronouncing.
I think podcasts are so funny for that because every podcaster I know, like reveals like what the word that they don't know, like how to say, and like because like
So
you're just
many.
all of a sudden like yeah, you're just talking, and lots of people are hearing you and give feedback. It's so funny. I
Okay,
love
well, if you
hearing.
want a story, this is like my
Mhm.
family mythology story. So you know how like every family has like the one story that they will trot out to humiliate you with? Like for my mom, it's that she tormented my hamster with a vacuum cleaner. For and she also tried to resuscitate a hamster with CPR. That's like the big family story for her. She actually like CPR'd a hamster.
Mhm.
Um, hers for mine is that I saw suede and I instantly thought it would be pronounced sude. So that is like the family joke that she trots out every time she wants
Yeah,
to like tick me
yeah,
off. Yeah.
yeah.
So yes, that's my Achilles heel is sude.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, we all have them. Anyway, so yeah, lots of flowers, some vegetables, very elaborate herb garden. It's really good. I feel really good about it.
And
Um,
there's like the studies that say that like having our hands in soil actually helps our
yes,
microbiome.
exactly, exactly. And I think just having something to work on that is for me because I do so much work like on the computer, just like fending off email and social media and like all this stuff. And I just hate all of it. I hate computers. I'm like extremely phobic and anti technology. And just because it gives me, I can physically feel it in my body. Like I don't have any judgment about it for other people. It's just me. Like for me personally, it really I hate it. And so when I'm working in a garden, it's just like all of that is gone and like my whole body relaxes, but it's also productive. It's like something is actually happening. I'm doing a thing, it's creating a thing. I can see the results of that thing. It's nice. um,
There's something about nurturing and taking care of something that I think is
exactly.
healing. And
Exactly.
it's yummy. And
Yeah,
with food
exactly.
stability issues, it's also really nice just to have like and you can do it anywhere in like with any budget. Like I was just finishing up a children's book, and like even with takeout containers, you can just put some holes on the bottom of it, put some
Yeah.
soil in, put your seeds in, and then take the plastic and put it over that, and then that's
Yes,
a greenhouse.
and
Like
that's
it's
yeah. But there
yeah.
I another I'm not into like silver linings as you know, but one thing that I do think is positive that's coming out of this nightmare that we're in right now is that there's a lot of that happening. There's like a ton of like victory gardens and people are learning to
Mm,
grow food and obviously that's not gonna like overhaul the way our food system or anything like that. But I think it there's I don't know, there are these cracks that are opening up that it's like I don't know, maybe things will some good stuff will come out of this. That would be
that'd be nice.
which isn't to say, well, I'm so glad this happened. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, you can see that there are some things that could change really for the better, which would be great.
Lovely. Yeah. I'm okay with silver linings as long as I'm the one who came up with them. If it's about my life, I'm okay with if I have a silver
Right,
lining
that's
that I found for me, I'm
yeah,
good with it. But you don't get to make that silver lining for me. No one else gets to tell me what my silver lining is. Like,
that's exactly it. It is
okay, good.
exactly that's exactly it. You are allowed to come up with your own silver lining for your own life, but nobody else is allowed to say like, "Well, but have you thought about on the bright
Someone
side?"
has a plan for you.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
no.
nothing more enraging than somebody else telling you, like, how to make the best of your situation, especially because it's really true that those people are just 2 seconds away from pivoting to complaining about their own stuff, and you're like, "Wait, what? How can you just said that my tragedy what you but like, yeah, it drives me completely insane. The incessant need to bright side somebody else's horrible life. Like, why do people have to do that? Yeah.
I mean, I understand the need to mirror. Like there's that need to say like I empathize with you, like, or I get you. And like there's I think it I mean I don't know for everyone, but I think like, for like, a lot of people it comes to a place of like I just want you to see me and know that I see you, and this is how I'm doing this. It's like we need to have a better way to do that. Like just hold space for someone. Like
Yeah, I think that most people don't know how to hold space or think that like looking on the bright side is an act of service. They're like trying to help you make it better. And it's like, and I just think that people don't realize that it really, really does not make it better to do that to somebody else. And just don't do it. Just do not do it. And yeah, just learn to be there and mirror somebody and hold space with them and just be with them in the shit. Like that is so healing to just have somebody else say, this sucks. Yeah, I'm so sorry and this sucks and I don't know how you do it. I admire you. The end. Like that's like
yeah.
so if like everyone could just learn to just do that as a default, like that would be so much better than like, well, I hear what you're saying, but have you thought about how, your book coming out in a pandemic could be really, really positive if you just think about it and don't think about it.
Have you
It's just,
had to comfort someone else after you told them your story?
oh, it's
I
everybody.
just had to talk my mail lady down from a ledge because she saw me like out with my cane, and she wanted to know what was wrong. She's like, "Oh, I hope you feel better." And I was in a snarky ass mood as I usually am. I was like, "Yeah, that doesn't happen with DNA issues. Like, this is permanent." So I just kind of gave her like the basics. Like, my joints fall out of socket all the time. I have mass dislocations. This is how this is. And she almost started crying. And I had to spend 10 extra minutes standing up to comfort this poor woman. I'm like, I should have just said thank you. I should have
Yeah.
said, yes, I hope I get better soon too. Like that would have been such a time saver.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's very real. That's been one of the things that's been the hardest about releasing the book is that it's like a lot of people that I know pretty well that didn't know a lot of this stuff because I am not somebody that I hate social media. So like I don't post stuff about anything on the internet. It has nothing to do with like sharing versus not sharing. I tell people if I'm talking to them, but I don't post stuff on the internet. And so a lot of people didn't know. And so a lot of people's response was to feel very, very, very guilty and would call and talk to me about like how bad they felt, but not in a way that was like, but it was for me to make them feel better. And I was like, oh gosh. I'm like, I get it, but like I just I yeah, but that really does fall into the category of like I'm 100% sure that like I have done that and in the wrong way with some other person dealing with a difficult thing or grief that I if their husband died or something, I just feel sure. I don't know what it was, but I feel sure that I probably did the wrong thing that falls into this type of category of if you're in that if it's happened to you, you are very aware of this is the wrong thing that people do over and over again, but they don't know that. And I'm just bringing it up to say it's very difficult, but I also am like, I get it. Like
Hmm.
nobody knows what to do, and we all kind of do the wrong thing all the time. But still, man, it's really hard to take care of other people that are having trouble carrying your difficult thing that you have to take care of them in that difficulty. That's tough.
I'm a coward. I write fiction, so I get to hide everyone in character names. How did you feel writing? Like you didn't name your doctors. I'm assuming that's a legal choice. But how did you feel like actually writing people?
Yeah, not just a legal choice. I don't. I would never. I don't want to. I don't want to like hurt somebody. These people that hurt me horribly, I don't. I am not interested in like you know making their lives worse. I just don't. I don't want to do that. But it just. I don't know. It just. Yeah, it doesn't feel right. But writing about. I did. That said, I feel very interested. I think about this all the time. That I do kind of want to send all of these people the book with like a little post-it note, like on their scene that just says like you, and like that's it. And because like that feels like enough. Like that feels
Please.
like That's just, and that's it, with no letter, with no nothing. That's just like that. Or maybe a letter that's just a little more generous than that. That's just like, because a lot of these people, as I say in the book, for a variety of reasons, the main one being like you do not have the um, luxury of like talking back to these people because you kind of need them. And like, even if you don't see them again, you don't want them to be against you. What if you have to have a doctor you're seeing now get in touch with that person in the future or whatever?
Or
So
what
you
if you need pain meds and it's on
what
your
if you
record that you were
yeah,
drug seeking?
yeah, exactly. And so like you cannot, I feel like so many different people in society that are marginalized or have no power deal with this all the time. It's like you really do need to like be able to have anger and to talk back and to be a squeaky wheel, but like you can't because it is going to boomerang back on you. And like that is just fucked up and unfair and wrong. And so but it's the reality. And so for a lot of these doctors, or it's just like too much energy, and like you have to like take up your energy just living your life, and so you don't have time to like go correct a doctor in their bad behaviors after the fact. And so a lot of the doctors that I saw, I think I feel sure that even though my experience with them was like horrifically traumatic, that they don't think of it that way. That they were just like, yeah, that was a difficult procedure, but like I never heard from her again, and she was probably doing okay. Like that probably means she's doing okay. I know that that's true because I've gone back to see doctors I didn't see for a long time, and they're like, I've thought about you like low these many years, and like I've been hoping that you like that it all got sorted out and that you were okay. And obviously it wasn't, but they didn't know that. They just there's no the way that the medical system is set up is like you just once they're out of your office, like that's it, they're gone. And so I think that a lot of these doctors, there is no feedback mechanism except those fucking surveys that they send you now
Ah,
constantly, which I think is a good step in the right direction. But I don't know about you. I feel afraid to send those out because I'm like, I do not believe that they're totally anonymous and that person is like, because I'm like, oh, this is good. Like I could give the feedback that I always felt like I couldn't give, but I'm like afraid to because I'm worried that the same reasons that they're gonna be like, I know who this is, and I'm now gonna treat them poorly in the future. Anyway, that's just a side
no,
note.
I feel like when you're in a bad medical relationship, it is
Mhm.
like being an abused kid or being an abused spouse, it's a very abusive power structure because
Yeah.
it's very authoritarian. The doctor has all the say. There is no one to go around to. Like you can, but no. I mean, you have to sue, and that's a long and expensive process, and it's very hard to prove, and
Yeah.
it's a dangerous system set up. But I don't know if you know the Yellow Wallpaper story. The woman who wrote it, she wrote it because it was her experience
Hmm.
in post childbirth and like the Victorian era, and or maybe it's the early. I'm sorry, the brain is on fried, but it was. She gave it to her doctor, who had prescribed for her to be left in a small room after her child was born. She was suffering from depression, and just given milk and porridge and no books and no writing materials, and she wasn't allowed to write or see anyone. The maid was supposed to enter silently, leave her food, and go. And this is for months. And that short story is one of the best short stories about if you want to know how to write insanity, like a slow descent. That's a great story. And she gave it to her doctor when she finished it, and he changed his medical practices and started to educate other doctors because he was like, I had no idea. I thought I was
Yeah.
doing the right thing for her. Like this is obviously the wrong way to go.
Yeah, that's actually for me, the most heartening response that I've gotten from like a lot of readers is that they've sent it on to like their primary care doctor or to their therapist or something like that, but especially to doctors. And I've heard from a lot of doctors that I'm very glad to hear from other womies and other patients like that is that's that's important. But it's almost more important that it be given to physicians because like that's where the breakdown is, like that is where like the most, because I really do believe like obviously the illness is this family of illnesses is horrible and tragic, and just the experience of it is the worst. I really believe that the abusive relationship between you and like 1,000 doctors that you are forced to see is worse than the illness itself. It has been for me. Like, it just is so, it just, it, it's so painful. It is so emotionally painful to be treated that way over and over and over and over and over again. It is abusive. And it's just that, and that part is totally fixable. Like that, there is nothing that needs to happen that's difficult for doctors to change that. Sorry, I'm a very loud skateboarder just yeah, so I really do, that's one thing that I hope for a lot, is just being able to like speak to as many physicians as possible, to be able to do like I talked to George Washington University about doing like grand rounds there, and like just going in to just be like, I I know that you know me. I know that you know people like me, patients like me. I know that this is a recognizable phenomenon. I need you to hear the story from our side and what it actually is like, what it is like to work with you, the doctor, and how the simplest things that you could change to just believe us, and just, even if you don't know what to do, to just say, I believe you. I know that this type of illness is horrible, and I am going to do my best to try to find you the most supportive team, in DC or whatever it is. That's it. That's like, if you could just change that, I just feel like that is like a huge step forward for this community of patients. That is, because to add that type of psychological suffering on top of the physical suffering is just so unconscionable to me. Like, it's just wrong. Like, if you did that to a different type of illness, you would have your medical license taken away. Like, if you treated patients with cancer the way that you're treating this type of patient, you would definitely be stripped of your license. And so it just that is the one thing that is like, doesn't take years of research and billions of funding, and like that, it could change tonight. It could change by tomorrow. So,
Compassion.
yeah.
We could just embrace compassion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just being able to reflect on yourself. I really think that is part of it, is like knowing that that is part of your duty as somebody with a lot of power that is charged with somebody else's life. You have to be able to be self-reflective and like evaluating if you're doing the best by your patients, and being willing to change. And that has been a quality that it's been hard to come by. Yeah.
It's a rare and beautiful quality. I've kidnapped you for 2 hours so far.
Yeah, I
So
don't know if you need to go.
I just want to ask one last question before I let you go. And first off, darn you for Slate. I went on to Slate, and I know I'm going to lose the rest of the day looking at Slate, the podcasting app. That was way too much fun. But have you caught up with Outlander?
Oh, yes, I think it's, that just made me feel like, I'm like, is there more out?
There's like one more episode left, and I'm like freaking out because
no. If it's the new, is it season 5? Is it like the new?
Yeah.
No, I am not caught up. So I'm waiting for it to like.
I will not say anything else. Never mind. I was gonna like freak out and fangirl with you, but no, I will not say anything about season 5, except the only thing I will say is this season is my favorite.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Like, it was my like hands down. Like, they lost me a little bit with like I felt like it jumped the shark for a second, and I was like, this is getting ridiculous. Come on now.
Yeah. Like when they aged 20 years with like one gray hair.
Oh my God, yes. Oh yes, Jamie is so old. Yes, most 60-year-old men have 6 packs. That's how that works out. Sure, in the American frontier, no missing teeth. Not a single pimple to be had.
I mean, people get aged up all the time on TV, and they just didn't do it.
I know Claire has this one beautiful strip of curly white hair.
And
you're like, oh my God, sure. Why not?
That was such a funny decision. I was like, I mean, they are beautiful. I don't mind looking at them.
No problems with the beauty there. Like, yeah. I can watch that show for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah, that's one of the only shows I've ever rewatched the whole thing. I went through last year. I just rewatched everything. It was so good.
I love the writer, like Diana. Oh gosh, brain.
Gabaldon.
Yeah. There's one YouTube video I've watched like 20 times, and it was called Rulers of the Realm, and it was George R. R. Martin, Patrick Rothfuss, Diana and Lev Grossman and
Okay.
here's something, but they talked about writing, and it was one of the best discussions about how to
Oh,
write I've ever heard in my life. And
oh, that's
her
cool.
advice was like her 10 minutes should just be like highlighted and put all
Mm.
over YouTube on like how you
Oh,
handle writer's block.
cool.
I was like, this is good.
I have to look that up. What kind of fiction do you write?
I write,
Mhm.
well, I write a few different things. I run a whole nother publishing company for children's picture books. So I write and illustrate
Oh,
kids' books. And then I run another podcast for kids. I do a history podcast called I Can't Believe That Happened. It's like 10-minute, like weird stuff that happened in history that you're like, I should have known about that.
that's
Like,
cool.
yeah, I'm doing a whole season on the history of robots, which actually started in ancient Greece. There
Oh,
were robots in ancient Greece.
oh,
And in the Middle Ages, we're like, it was huts and Robin Hood. Robin Hood was the big advancement. It's like, no, 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 no. The Muslim world had robots. They actually had
wow.
robots, real, I mean, for real, what we recognize as a programmable robot. There was an engineer called Al Jazari who invented these amazing robots that you could actually have cam systems that were like these little wheels that you would insert into these robot musicians to play different music. And it wasn't just like a sound
Oh
playing,
my
they would
god.
play. So it's like really cool stuff. I'm like, I feel like I should have heard about that. Like,
Yes.
so I do that, and then I'm writing a fantasy novel that I guess is kind of why, just because the protagonist is a teenage girl, but it's really kind of touching on this idea of like, what actually are we? And
Mm,
can you recoup what you've lost? Like,
mm,
is there a way to get that back? And can you recognize if it doesn't look like what you thought it should look like?
mm.
So yeah, those are like I have no tolerance for boredom. I am like this
I
psychotic, like screwed up idea of like, let's put all the energy of like some sort of like dark supernova into the body that's failing. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's very messed up to be like stuck when you're like, but that shiny idea and that shiny idea. It's like the
Mhm,
Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland where he's like, it's so crowded up here.
mhm, mhm.
So it's
Oh my
frustrating,
god,
but
I can't.
lots to do.
Yeah, that's that's cool though. I have to look that writers conversation up. That sounds good.
I will send you. I'll email it over to you when we're done talking. But yeah, thank you. I will let you go say. I think you're probably getting tired and I need to take my pain meds pretty soon because I'm
Yeah.
going to start whimpering and that's never anything anyone wants to hear. But I can't thank you enough for letting me. This will come out in two parts.
Okay.
But I'm really grateful you decided to let me chat with you and kidnap you for this
Good.
long. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's so nice meeting you. It's so nice talking to you. It's really a pleasure. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, everyone, head over to Invisible Not Broken and top of show notes. Please buy the book. It's absolutely one of my favorites, and I'm not usually a memoir person, and I actually usually don't even accept books from publishers. This was one that I just couldn't resist, and so I'm really, really happy to hear from you. I think next week is probably Eva. So until next week, be kind, be gentle, and in whatever way it looks like to you, be a badass. Off the air.
Okay.
enjoying this podcast and Eva's podcast, and need more of us, head over to our Facebook group. That's been really active and it's becoming a really beautiful community. So a great place to go and tell us what you think or what you want more of, or just to hang out and chat with us. If you also want some more, we have a blog, and you can head over to our website, invisiblenotbroken.com. Kindest thing you can do for us is we have a Patreon account. This is all done out of Eva and my pocket. So if you want to support us, that'd be really great. If that's just not in your budget, the next best, most wonderful thing you can do is leave a really embarrassingly nice review on Apple Podcasts. Hit subscribe and share these episodes with your friends and with your community. That'd be amazing. And we are so grateful for that. We are completely advertised through your word of mouth. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Be kind, be gentle, and it's never been more important in whatever way you can. Be a badass.